Hey, welcome back to another episode in the Simple Nutrition Insights podcast. I am your host, Leonila Campos, registered dietitian. And today I am excited to have a colleague of mine, John Canlas, who's also a registered dietitian. So I'll let him introduce himself and your job title and what you do, and then we can start with the conversation.
Thanks for having me, Leonila. My name is John Canlas. I am a registered dietitian, and I have been a registered dietitian since, let me count, 2014. So about 10 years, or very close to 10 years. Currently, I have a private practice on my own, based in the San Francisco Bay Area here in California, and I've been doing that for about 2 years. Like I started building up slowly. Before that, I was in various roles. I was more majority of my career was in management. So I was a director, manager, patient service manager, and then I worked in prison for a long time, for I think 2.5 years. And then that's actually when I started building with my private practice. So I took little jobs here and there while I was building my private practice, and now I'm doing it full time.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the podcast. And yeah, it's amazing how dietitians can go in different areas, right? Not only like hospital or,
Mhm.
which most people think of dietitians, right? Like, oh, or food service, right? Like my food
Yeah,
sucks, but we can do a
that's
lot
true.
more than just like
Yeah,
those clinical roles, which are super essential. Or we can go in like different areas, right? Like food service or the prison system or private practice or renal or cancer. So,
yeah.
um, first question, how do you decide to become a dietitian, right? Because I want the listeners to know that there's not a lot of men that are dietitians, right? I don't have the statistics, but I can find out and put them in the show notes. And
Yeah.
there's not a lot of dietitians that are male. And then there are also of a minority group, right? So I think that is also important. So why did you become a dietitian?
You know, I actually looked it up, Leonila, before
Yay!
this. Over 90% are women. It's probably higher than that. Over 90% are women and over 90% are white. So that makes me a very, very rare specimen in the dietetics world. So, how I got into dietetics or being a dietitian, my first choice was exercise science because I wanted to be a personal trainer. And then as in college, as I started digging into it, I realized you don't technically, quote unquote, need a degree to be a personal trainer. You just need a certificate. And then I wanted something in healthcare because my mom was a nurse, my family was a nurse, and they always encouraged me to be in healthcare for job stability. And I didn't want to be a nurse. I didn't want to be anything other than healthcare, but I knew I liked eating well and I liked food. But at the same time, I wanted to be something stable. So I looked a couple of, you know, careers while I was in college, and I landed on a dietitian. And the reason why I landed on a dietitian, because it's kind of close to like taking care of others, like a nursing or personal trainer, but at the same time, it's not really hands-on, like you're really physically touching them. And I knew in healthcare there would be like uh, s- uh, a solid base for a job, and that's where I started. That's when I kind of started my path as a dietitian. Um, it's been it's I don't regret being a dietitian. I love it. I like talking about health, passionate about eating and eating well, and yeah, I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, awesome. That's really amazing how we come into these roles, right? Into these careers because it was similar to my story, right? My
Okay.
grandma has diabetes, and so she will share, her anger, not anger, but like frustration as to
Yeah.
okay, they're just telling me to, we're Mexican, so they would tell her, oh, just stop eating tortillas and rice and beans, so you can manage your diabetes. And
Yeah.
telling that to someone that these are the food that they grew up with, it's obviously very frustrating, right? To them, it's like, well, what am I gonna eat? Like that's all I eat. So, I saw that frustration, and in my mind, that was in sophomore in high school, and I said, okay, there has to be a career that that where nutrition is like the focus, right? I had no idea there was
Mm,
such career, and so I
mm,
looked into it, and I knew Fresno State has a good program, so I said, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go to Fresno State and do and major in nutrition, and I never changed my career. Like, never even had the thought of, oh, I want to do something
really?
else. Yeah,
You
I
didn't
and
consider
I
any like
mm-mm,
trainer or other health
no,
fields?
because I said
Ah,
if I decide to change careers, then I'll rather go and do surgery, like become a surgeon, right? I wanted to do something drastic, like a brain surgeon. But then, I got more into our grad classes, right? Medical nutrition
yeah.
therapy. And I really loved it, right? Because that's where we really talk about how important nutrition is for our health, right? For
Hmm.
prevention and management of these chronic conditions. And I really loved it. And I said, okay, this is what I want to do, right? And until
Hmm.
this day, I love being a dietitian. I love, like you said, talking to people and taking care of people. Not in the sense of, okay, let me, you know, cure you, but in that sense, right? But
Yeah.
just being able to talk to them and figure out, okay, how can we help this person to feel better or achieve their
Mm.
goals, right? I think that is so rewarding. And like you, I went before becoming a private practice dietitian. I did different roles too. I was
Okay. What is it?
women, infant, and children program, right? Community nutrition. I did corporate
Nice.
wellness, skilled nursing facilities, dialysis, right?
Oh,
Diabetes education. So there's so many ways where we can go, but it always in the back of my mind, I want to be, I want to have my own private practice, right? And so
why'd you
I
made you?
started, yeah, I started at the end of 2019, and then we know what happened after that. So, job security, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
this is what I want to do, but I want to make sure that I'm
Hmm.
also, bringing in some income from other
There you go.
sources too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing how our paths, um, take us with different experiences.
It's so flexible, the diet, being a dietitian, because a lot of people do really think that it's just a hospital. Even sometimes when I look at the Facebook groups, I see people asking what kind of careers there are. But if you think about it, there's so many ways to be a dietitian: sports dietitian, private practice, renal, working in prison. Most people never even know you could work in prison as a
Right.
dietitian, private practice, corporate, eating disorders. There's so many ways to go about being a dietitian. And if you have potential dietitians to listen to here, just know you're not just, if you don't like the idea of being in a hospital, just know there's so many ways to be a dietitian.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. And that's absolutely true, right? When you think
Hmm.
about wherever food is in that area, you can be a dietitian there, right? There is now social media dietitians or dietitians that work with like different brandings or different companies. Like you said, sports dietitians. Literally, you can do anything you
Yeah,
want to
seriously.
focus. You can go wherever you want to go.
Yep,
But
I agree.
yeah, awesome. So, okay, so you became a dietitian, right? Now you have your private practice. Um, and one of the things that we talked about, right, before the podcast started is some of the common trends, maybe some of the common struggles that people have more so when they're trying to lose weight, right? That weight
Yes.
management, which is the
Hmm.
population that you also work with. And so,
Yes.
what are some of the things that you see as a trend, right, that you have experience or that your clients have experience, and how can we have a solution for that?
Yes, a good question. So, um, the majority of the population I work with is weight management, and then the next most common population that I work with are type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes. And this is are in no particular order. Like, I'm just gonna name one by one and tell you kind of like what I think might help or not help. But the number one, that one of the things that I see for a lot of my clients struggling with trying to lose weight is snacking. Like, they snack throughout the day. And usually when I start digging deeper on on what it is, why they snack, or what makes them snack. I can attribute it for a lot of things, but the most common thing is uh, they don't have balanced meals. Like they skip their breakfast, they either skip lunch. I always tell my clients, coffee is not breakfast, so don't just have coffee, or Starbucks Frappuccino is not breakfast, so try not to do that. And usually that will help them snack less. Another thing I see for a lot of my clients when they snack throughout the day is their meals, when they're not balanced, they tend to be very carb heavy or very fat heavy. You know, when I say carb, it could be just a frappuccino, it could be just a piece of bread. Um, for my Hispanic clients, I'll ask them what their breakfast is. They'll say coffee, and then sometimes they'll say just bread and coffee. I'm like, that's it. It's like, what do you have more? And I'll start to give them the ideas with kind of to make sure they feel full for breakfast, even for lunch. You know, another reason why. My clients struggle with snacking is their environment or their household. Sometimes in your household there's snacks. Like for example, I work with a large Hispanic population, and sometimes they live with their families. So if one person is trying to lose weight, their grandma or their mom have snacks there, so it makes it more difficult to say no, because they're trying to eat healthy, and but everywhere there's some cookies, there's some breads, there's some fried foods, and it makes it really difficult. So I tell my clients, the environment may not be conducive, but I want to make sure you at least cover your bases by having your balanced meals and never skimping out on protein and fiber when it comes to balancing meals. Do you have a similar experience, Leonela?
I love that you're talking about that because that's exactly what we talk about when with my clients too.
Mhm.
Because if you're not having these balanced meals, and I've done a couple of episodes already on what balanced meals mean, but
Yeah.
think of it, the 5 food groups, right? We have our fruits, our vegetables, our grains, our protein, and our dairy or high calcium high vitamin D foods. And yes, having high protein food, right, first thing in the morning, even if even if you're not a morning person or a breakfast person, the first meal that you're going to have has to be high protein, high fiber, right?
Mhm.
Fruits, veggies, because that's what's going to stabilize your blood sugars, right? That's what's going to help you to with your hunger levels. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, I agree with you, right? If you're snacking throughout the day, because sometimes we also ask clients, right, or patients, like, so how many meals do you have? And they say, oh, one or two. Okay, but what else are you having, right? Like, where are these calories coming from?
Sausage.
Snacking, right? And yes, we don't see them as a meal, but they still count, right? And so we're not saying, or at least I can ask you that question too, that snacking is bad, right? But we have to be intentional about our snacks, right? We have to also make them balanced. So I agree with
Yeah.
you 100%, right? That if we just are mindlessly snacking throughout the day, and they're not balanced, and then we're not having these balanced meals, then yes, we're going to continue to be hungry throughout the day, which
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
it
I like
difficult.
what you said, being intentional with snacking. Because to me, I neither say good or bad. It really depends on the context. But for a lot of my clients that snack, when they snack, they tend to snack not as mindfully as they should. Because sometimes when you skip breakfast, you tend to hungry over the day, so they'll grab whatever's available. Sometimes it'll be like a cupcake or like a lot of nuts or just whatever's there because you're hungry because you didn't eat your balanced meal. So when I when I tell my clients that if I ask it's snacking good or bad, I kind of have to tell them what in the context is. Like if you're snacking with cupcakes and muffins from Costco, then those are like 500, 600 calories, and maybe you should probably try to minimize that. If snacking is like for me, one of the things I recommend, Leonela, is to snack on something that is filling, like berries or grapes, and I try to pair it up with some type of protein, especially if they have blood sugar problems like type 2 diabetes. I try to encourage them versus you know They sometimes they'll go to Starbucks and they'll have coffee, their frappuccino, and they'll sip it throughout the day, and that makes them not hungry. So it's really in the context of our conversation, and it depends on the client how their meals are structured, and that's kind of like, well, I'll develop a specific plan for them.
Yeah, that's amazing too. That I love that you said, it's not bad, good or bad, right? And I think that's one of the things that, as dietitians, we can agree. Probably, I want to say at least 99% of the time is that we're never going to say that food is bad or what you do is good or bad, right? Again, like you said, it's in the
Hmm.
context of what is happening, and food is
Hmm.
never going to be bad, right? Or it's never going to be in that context good. Food is just food, unless if it's literally like, it's poisonous and it is bad. But
Yeah,
just in general, right? Food is just food. It is
yeah.
because of how diet culture has placed, these habits, but the way that we view food, that when we do eat it, we feel so guilty, right? And
Hmm.
so then it just creates this whole issue, this whole other issue that we might go into it, we might not, I don't know. But yeah, snacking is one of them. So yeah, I agree with what you said.
Yeah, and another thing that I see for a lot of my clients, Leila, that struggle to lose weight is they go out to eat often. Like they go out to fast food, DoorDash, restaurants. And one of the things that make it difficult for people to eat at home are a couple of things. Is one, they they don't prepare in advance. So they wait till the very last, like they wait until the end of the day and they cook their meals, either when they're tired and they decide that it's they're gonna cook a whole meal for that day. Um, Another thing that I see for um, a lot of my clients when they do go out to eat is when they go to restaurants, they're extremely hungry. When they do DoorDash, they're extremely hungry. Like they'll skip breakfast or lunch or they'll skip one of the meals. By the time they get hungry on the way to their home, they're so hungry they have to go to a drive-through to get something. So they'll tend to overeat. And a lot of the things that I recommend for a lot of my clients when they're going out to eat, I ask them how are their habits or how are they preparing their meals. Because for a lot of my clients that struggle, they prepare meals on the day of. And some of these clients, they have families, so they're making their own meals and they have to make their own kids' meal and the kids picky. Then they have to make their own meals and the kids' meal. And they rather feed their kids. So by the time that they eat by themselves, it's a struggle. So I tell them, have you thought about kind of planning your days, kind of like have a flexible planning, this doesn't have to be complex, it doesn't have to be really um, you know very very detailed, but something to get you through your day. And as dietitians, we kind of have type A personalities, so we kind of plan things ahead, but a lot of people are not like that. Do you have the same experience?
I love that you said that because you're so right, right? We have to have a list and like, okay, did we do that? Okay, great. Let's move on to the next thing. And it has to be
Yeah.
perfect. Of course, now, I mean, I'm learning to be like, no, it's okay. Just get it done. At least you have something to work with. But you're
See?
you're right. I do see that with my patients too, right? And that's something that we work with as well. Like, let's
Mhm.
have a plan, right? If you don't have a plan, when you're very hungry, it's going to be so difficult to make that decision, that educated decision, because your brain is like, who cares? I need to eat now. So I don't care what your
Exactly.
goals are. I don't care that you're trying to be healthy. Right now, I want you to feed me because I'm extremely hungry. And so
Hmm.
having that plan, right? Like you said, it doesn't have to be like a strict plan or it doesn't have to be like this long plan, but at least an idea. Okay, Wednesday is my busy day. Let me make something for Wednesday, right? Or at least knowing what you want to make. So, you get ready and have the ingredients available. Um, because you're so right. When you are hungry and you either go to the store, and I think that's something that a lot of people have heard, right? Don't go to the store hungry because you're going to buy things that you don't want to buy, but because you're hungry, you buy them. Same thing when you're hungry and you're going through the drive-through or you're ordering on DoorDash, right? Um,
Yeah.
you're gonna order more than what you would otherwise order if you're not that hungry, right? And so I
Yeah.
think, yeah, having that plan is very helpful.
I see that too for especially for a lot of parents too. When they're tired and but their kids are hungry, they rather just drive through the fast food places or DoorDash because but at the end of the day, they're all they want to do is rest. But I tell them to be more proactive when it comes to being grocery shopping. A lot of them, which kind of brings me to my third point, is not planning ahead. Like I ask my clients and my patients, do you know your schedule for the next week? Because for the most part, unless you have a very unpredictable life, a lot of your schedule is very planned. Like you go to work, you go home, you have kids at this day, you pick up your kids at this time, they have their bedtime X, Y, and Z. So for the most part, it's flexible, it's predictable. And I say to them, if your meals are more predictable, then you have more predictability when it comes to planning your meals. Uh, a lot of my clients don't really have a hard time kind of conceptualizing that. So I tell them, your meals doesn't have to be rigid, but you have to keep it flexible. And what I see for a lot of my struggles with that are parents, and maybe you can answer me this, like for you as a dietitian and a mom, how do you prepare your meals? I'm curious how you do your food.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, you're putting me on the spot. Just kidding. Um, no, the same way, right? So I have to have an idea of what my week is going to be like. Usually, like you said, there's not a lot of things that come up to me, right? I have a schedule. I already know my schedule ahead of time, and I usually do my shopping on the weekend, and I make sure that I have the ingredients that I need for my meals, right? I don't always meal prep for all my meals, but I know, okay, what I want to make, right? And I have
Mm.
that on my mind. And so the day off, okay, this is what I'm making, and then I get it ready. But the same thing with my clients, right? I make sure, okay, let's figure out what's going to work for you and how your week is, right? Uh, because the less obstacles that we have, the less challenges that we have going into our week, right? The more successful we are going to be. And so
Mhm.
if we don't have that awareness, if we don't plan ahead, right, it's going to be, again, difficult to make a decision on the spot, right? It's just hard because we're not
Yeah,
like trained for it, right? It's like, ooh,
right.
okay, I know what to make, right? When you're stressed and when you're tired and when you're a parent and you have to feed the kids and pick them up, yeah, you become last
Yeah,
usually.
no, I get it. You become last, and another thing I tell my clients is, if you don't want to cook on the day of because you're tired, and I understand how commuting plus working, and sometimes you have a stressful job. You have to have the ingredients for the meals that you think you might want. Keep it simple, especially if you have kids, because having different meals. Like I had a client one time, she had to cook like four different meals, one for her, one for her husband, two for her two different kids. So I asked her, no wonder it's hard for you to maintain this. So one of the things I recommended to my client was that have a look a week ahead. Like your kids are gonna want two different things. Your husband can take care of himself, so let him be it. You don't have to worry about him. So that leaves you, instead of four meals, now you can do 3 meals. And for your 3 meals, I told this client, you make sure you have the ingredients available with you at all times, so you're not like winging it on the day to day. And another thing that I tell my clients or for any of my patients is cooking in batches, like kind of like meal prepping, but not in a way that you see it like in a fitness meal where you have like 7 meals ahead of time, just cooking in batches. And because a lot of my clients, they'll just cook for the day of, when instead you can cook for 2 or 3 days ahead. And that makes things kind of simpler to kind of make sure they are consistent. Because what I find for a lot of clients is they'll do well, but they kind of fall off. So cooking in batches reduces that chances, and making sure having a flexible plan throughout the week, because your schedule is for the most part it's pretty predictable week by week.
Right. Yeah, I love that you mentioned that usually clients do so well the first part of the week, right? Or if you've seen them every 2 weeks, the first week, right? Because they're like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm ready, let's go. They're motivated. And then
Yeah.
something happens, right? And then the second week is like, oh man, like I didn't do anything this week, right?
Yeah.
So have you had that experience too?
Yeah, actually, I do it. I've had that struggle, but I try to um, kind of make up for that. Not every week for me is going to be perfect, and I tell my clients that like not you don't for you to get results, you don't have to be perfect like all 7 days, and to get results. And I tell them my struggles too, because with my kids and um, my wife's not a dietitian, but I am, so I have the type A personality, so I have to predict the things, I have to kind of watch for things, and I'm used to that. So I have to kind of predict things ahead as things go. So what I do for me, I keep my things simpler. Like for me, for my lunch today is a avocado sandwich with a Greek yogurt. But for dinner, my dinner is already predicted for the next 3 days, and for my wife as well. But my for kids, it can be a little bit more complicated, especially if they're picky. So, and that's where a lot of my energy will put in. For me, I'm very simple. So what my strategy is for me, if you like simple things, you want to make sure those things are available for you, so you can put things together in 10 to 15 minutes versus gathering the ingredients, cooking them, chopping them up for 1 hour. And then by the end of the day, you still have to get ready your kids. So having that simplicity, so that way you can predict things, is going to be helpful in reaching their weight loss goals.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing those tips. Because it is so important to keep it simple, right? A lot of the times, again, we tend to complicate things, and we have a goal, and we want to like do these complicated plans and complicated strategies. When it's like, let's start with the basics, right? Let's
Yeah.
focus on that, and let's see how things go. And let's go. It's your pace, right? What that's when also I work with my clients, and I tell them this is your plan, right? I'm here as a guide. I'm here
Yeah.
as a mentor, but essentially, you have to tell me what's going to work for you. And if you don't know at the moment, that's okay. Let's go with it for the first week, second week, and then when you come back, then you can give me feedback, tell
Yeah.
me what worked for you. But
Yeah.
I think that really helps, because we're not food police, right? We're not like, at least I'm not. I'm not like this strict person that it's gonna be like really upset at you for not doing your plan, right? I'm
Yeah.
here as a guide, right? I'm
Yeah.
here as um, someone that is going to help you achieve your goals, but
Mhm.
you're putting in the work, right? So I think that
Yeah,
is
and I
important
say
to
that to
mention.
my clients too, especially in our first session, because most of them have never worked with a dietitian. And I tell them, I'm more of as a guide, counselor, mentor, so we can come up with a plan together. Because a lot of them, sometimes they think dietitian, oh, what am I going to do? Are you going to tell me what foods to eat? Are you going to give me a meal plan? You tell me the calorie count? I don't technically say no to all of those, but I tell you, those can be all of our choices. So by the end of our session, we can come up with a plan that works for you at your own pace, because everyone does it differently, right? Someone can do it really, really quick. Someone can do it like an average pace. Some can do it slower for whatever reason. So I like what you said, doing it at your own pace.
Right. Yeah. Um, because we see more success that way, right? Versus
Hmm.
like, yeah, here's a plan, right? A one size fits all. We know that
Yeah.
that's not going to work,
Mhm.
and it's just going to be a disservice for that specific person.
Exactly.
And we're not the ones doing it, so we're not the ones like struggling with it. Versus like creating this plan together and like coming together and be essentially on the same page and checking in to make sure that you're doing well.
Yep. Yep.
So that absolutely helps.
Mhm.
Let's see. Okay, so what would you say to a client that is struggling to like really put a plan together, right, for them, or sticking to a plan? Like, how do you work with them in working through those struggles?
So if they've been trying to formulate a plan over and over, I'll ask them, what made you not seek help before this? What was stopping you? And then the most common answer that I get is because, oh, I think I thought I could do it on my own, or I thought I could figure things out, or I could I try these diets, like the keto or carnivore. Usually that's their go-to. So if someone that is listening to this and is wanting to get results, but for some reason you've struggled many, many times, my best advice from a time efficiency standpoint is seek the help of a qualified professional, a registered dietitian, to kind of get you formulate a plan. Because for when I talk to my clients, they'll say, oh, I saw this in social media, I read this, or I saw that, I tried this, I heard that if you blend a banana, it's not the same as eating a whole banana. Or I tried using Noom, I tried using this, all like this is our first time having conversation, and then these are like the things I hear over and over again. Whereas if you just got help, a year or two ago or several months ago, you've been further off. So first advice really is seek the help of a qualified professional.
Yeah. And I can't. I'm not in like in social media so much or TikTok, but sometimes I do see it when it comes up, from a client, or I see it on the news, and I'm like, what is happening? Um, and yeah, I've had experiences with clients too that say, you are my last resort, right? Or I've done
Yeah,
everything that
I've
everybody
heard
has
that too.
done,
Yeah,
and I'm like, but why? Like, you could have saved so much time. You could have
yeah,
saved so
yeah.
much money, your sanity, and just seeing results, like long-term results.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. I don't know if it's because not a lot of people know that dietitians, are able to help with those issues, or because they think that, oh, I need something quick, and I need to see results right away.
Yeah,
But you and I know that's not the case all the time, right? We're not going to
it's
see
yeah,
results instantly, right? From one week to the next, like, we're perfect now. I don't need you anymore. It's
yeah,
not like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, a lot of clients do, not a lot, but there's many of them that want results fast, like because they, like you said earlier in our conversation, they've been bombarded with a diet culture. Oh, lose 30 pounds in 30 days, or drop 12 pounds in 12 days, or whatever the catch or the hook is. It's like the business coaching side, like you make six figures in 6 months or something like that. And you know dietitians are not immune to this, like the business coaching side, and people are not immune to, because people want quick results. And unfortunately, that's what grabs their attention, and that's what people gravitate to. But you and I know, um, it's takes longer than that, especially if you have not so good habit. Turning them into better habit, it's going to take some time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And working through them. And just thinking, like, you didn't get to this point overnight, right? It
Hmm.
took a while. It took lots of doing things, maybe lots of
Yeah.
different behaviors to get to this point. And in order for you to be successful long term, right, the
Hmm.
sustainability of it, you have to think of it that way too. Like, it's going to take me that long, maybe a little less. But
Yeah.
I think letting clients know that, hey, you're not going to have a quick fix here, because what I'm going to give you is the tools and skills that you can use forever, right?
Hmm.
Versus quick fix and see ya, right? I got your money. Bye. Because, again, we got into this profession to help people, right? And
Hmm.
to see them success, and overall to give them health, right? And to give them
Exactly.
longevity. Because essentially that's what comes down to, right? Like, do you want to live your life suffering, or, getting these conditions because maybe you're trying like wild things, or do you want to create these healthy habits that essentially you can use anywhere you go, right, for the rest of your
Hmm.
life? And
Agreed.
I think that is important for clients to know that.
Yep, habits and like a lot of things, a lot of the behaviors, doing them over and over is really what's gonna set them apart versus yo-yo dieting. And it sounds simple, but it's true. I mean, simple doesn't always mean easy, but it's very doable.
Yeah, Absolutely.
Hmm.
I love that. Simple is not always easy. So we can simplify things, but you still have to do the work.
Exactly.
And I think having that guidance from a professional, right, from a dietitian,
Hmm.
is going to make things easier in the right way, right? Because
Exactly.
you are so right. There's so many crazy, wild things out there that, oh, you try that and you'll see weight loss, right? Or you try that and you won't have diabetes anymore. And we're like,
Yeah.
what? No, like there's not one, and there's not scientific research backing that up.
Hmm.
Two, that can be extremely dangerous. So don't do that. But sometimes when people are so desperate and they struggle so much and they have these pains and aches, you're gonna try anything, right? Anything that someone tells you that is going to help you. But just knowing that you have to go to the professional, right? You have to go to someone that has studied for years, right? It's not that we just got a certificate. Like literally, we went to school 4+ years and we did over 1,200 hours in an internship and we had to do a board
Yeah.
exam. So it's not that we got a certificate and we're like, ooh, we're dietitians,
Yay.
right?
That's probably one thing that I would tell my clients or potential people that are listening to this, go to a professional and just seek professional help, and that'll make their journey smoother. It's not going to guarantee, it's not gonna, there's no guarantees, but it'll make things easier and kind of smoother versus kind of be stuck in the cycle of trying, failing, yo-yo dieting and all that. So I would agree with that one as well.
Yeah, you mentioned something right now really good that you said, I'm not going to guarantee XYZ, right? Because that is extremely true. So we can give you the tools. We can give you our knowledge, right? We can help
Hmm.
you create a plan. But if at the end of the day, you don't execute the plan, then we're just staying at the same spot, right? We're not changing
Yeah.
anything because we can do the plan for you. That would be pretty good, right? But it would be extra work for us. But we cannot do the work for you. Like that's something that you have to execute. And so if at the end of the day, you're maybe not ready, that's okay, right? But being honest with yourself, I'm not ready for this right now, but I know that I can come back to you when I'm ready and we can do it. But if you
Yeah.
just stuck there, right, and you're like, I have the tools, I have everything that I need, but I don't want to do it, right?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
whatever the case may be, where are we going? Like, we are not going to go anywhere.
We can't force someone to not do the work. It's, but so that exactly the results are not guaranteed, but I try to kind of change their mindset on that because I tell my clients, well, do you feel like going to work every single day? I mean, there's days where you don't feel like, do you feel like taking care of your kids every day? I'm sure not all of them will say yes. So, but do they frustrate you? But you still show up, right? And like that's the kind of like the same mindset. Not everything that you're gonna do, you're gonna like. There's days where you do well, there's weeks you do well, and there's weeks and days that you don't do well. But you show up because your future you is going to want that better life, better health, better future for your kids. And sometimes it takes a lot of convincing, or sometimes I feel like therapy, to be honest with
Yeah, a lot of repetition, which is totally okay, right?
you.
We're here for you, and in the end, we want the best. We want the best. You're coming
Mhm.
to us for a reason, right? Again,
Mhm.
it could be because we're the last resort, and you're like, I just need some guidance, or maybe you're like, I've never worked with anybody, and I've never done anything, but I want the guidance from a professional. Perfect, right?
Mhm.
Again, we're here to support and guide you in your goals. um, yeah, any final thoughts that you want to provide to the listeners that have these weight loss goals, or that finding themselves stuck? Any final thoughts that you want to provide?
Just for final thoughts, if someone listening to this has been struggling all their life, know that it's very possible for you to get help and get assistance. Um, I think you and I, Leonil, I think we accept insurance. So having insurance is a huge benefit when it comes to getting help because it's kind of already paid for, and you get that support and that accountability. So if you've been struggling for most of your life and you've never gotten professional help, and professional help doesn't include Noom or MyFitnessPal because that's separate. My suggestion, if you're struggling for a long time, seek help, get professional help, because that can make a big difference in your outcome long term.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And so, if there's anyone that wants to work with you or wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
They can find me. I have a website called www.johncanlasrd, or you can just Google John Canlas Nutrition, and all my fax information and my phone information's there, and all the insurance information's there. You can verify or have this. I have the script to kind of verify insurance there. It's all laid out pretty well, so you can Google that and then start from there and see if we can work together.
Awesome. And you also do telehealth, right? Like virtual appointments. Is that right?
Yes, I do telehealth. So if you don't like coming in person, you can do telehealth at the comfort of your home to make it easier for you.
Perfect. And I'll add those details in the show notes. So if you're busy or driving, you can always go back to the show notes and find it there as well. John, thank you so much for joining me today. And that, I'm glad that you were able to talk about these things. I'm sure we'll do another episode on more cultural things,
Yeah,
maybe diabetes and demystifying some of the myths, right, that come with that. So we'll
yeah,
definitely probably have to do another one. But
of
again,
course.
thank you so much for coming and for joining me.
Thank you,
Um,
Linnea.
you're welcome. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me in today's episode. I'll talk to you. We'll see you in another episode. Take care. Bye bye for now.